Good evening everyone, and welcome to tonight's special episode of Good News. Tonight we have a breaking news announcement of yet another amazing progression within our society. It was established today that only 9% of the African population can be defined as living in poverty. This is a huge decline since 40% in 2017 and needs to serve as a reminder of just how far our world has come. With announcements like this popping up all the time, we thought it would be a great idea to reflect on just how far our world has come in the last 15 years and the incredible progress we have made in the areas of natural resources, political stability, and the general well-being of all our inhabitants. Tonight's episode will consist of us flashing back through time and reflecting on memorable moments in news to remind us of all of our unbelievable advancements that has led us to the world we know and love today. We will now pass on to Gemma to take us through the year of 2017.
Thanks, Caitlin. 2017 was a year of political instability and the beginning of a resource scarcity, which I will be outlining throughout this news piece. Looking back 13 years ago, we can clearly see how far the human race has progressed. 40% of the African population was living in poverty, with 19 of the world's 23 poorest countries being from Africa. This was in part due to a lack of natural resources critical for the upkeep of the African population, which in turn was caused by widespread political unrest and terrorism. 2017 was also a year of some of the worst and most brazen terror attacks known to man, with over 1,000 attacks and more than 5,000 fatalities. Public attacks on the West from the terror group ISIS were the most sophisticated and orchestrated attacks known to date. It had significant effects on countries globally. It comes as no surprise that in then 2016, the Global Terrorism Index noted that tourism's contribution to GDP was twice as large in countries that had no terrorist attacks compared to those that did. Due to most terrorist attacks being dealt by foreign individuals, a push for nationalism globally was the world's answer to the rising number of incidences. These sweeping changes had a huge impact on tourists and global travel, with many economies faltering, resulting in the world's most unstable political climate. Now over to Anastasia.
Good evening, and thank you, Gemma. Today marks 10 years after ISIS militants coordinated several attacks on nations within OPEC, which represents the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. This series of attacks included bombings of oil processing equipment and the assassination and abductions of leaders as well as energy secretaries. As a result of these attacks, people experienced a shortage of oil and a dramatic inflation of petroleum prices. This attack on the world acted as a wake-up call to ensure the protection of our global energy resources. Further on from these events, the UN developed an annual Resource Protection Conference, SAFE, which focuses on preventing unexpected resource losses from natural disasters, terrorism, and any other sudden risks. SAFE went viral all over the social media at the beginning of 2020, and currently it is experiencing a huge following from people all over the world. This conference was planned in order to encourage more technology innovations and strategic future planning. Now, let's move to Ben and investigate what is happening in 2025.
Thanks, Anastasia. 2025 was an extremely important year in our history, as it signifies a turning point in our society. It was during this year that the SAFE conference, as mentioned earlier, dramatically increased, with almost 80% of the world's leaders coming together and contributing their ideas and investment. With SAFE being a notion recognized all over the world, there was a huge technological advancement that aided in preventing terrorism. With funding and support of SAFE and the brains behind Apple, the Sky Eye 3000 was invented. This camera and security system was able to prevent 63% of potential terrorist attacks in major cities, as it was made a policy for all security entities to use the invention. With further technological advancements coming from the SAFE conferences, major changes and improvements in natural resources occurred. In particular, the year 2026 saw the invention of a new H2O filter and extractor that was donated to hundreds of countries in need. This is one of the many inventions that SAFE enabled and contributed towards the amazing increase in natural resources. Back to you, Caitlin.
Looking back, we have come such a long way, from terrorism, political unrest, to threat of war, scarcity of resources, poverty, and so much more, we have risen above all of this to change the path of our futures. 2030 is a year where we see a thriving tourism industry and a love for travel return without the darkness of terrorism looming over us. We have boosted our natural resources through technological advancements, had a huge decline in poverty in third world countries, and finally have increased globalization and seen an enormous decline in the animosity between nations. The world we live in today shows promise for generations and generations after us, and after looking back tonight, we should be proud of our past and how much we have accomplished. We hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Thank you and good night.